Hi, I'm Everett, a solutions engineer here at Eventual. Today I'm going to be covering our new prompt function, where we'll get to walk through multimodal inputs, structured outputs, reasoning, and tool calls. Let's get started. We'll be working in our Daft examples repo, where we've got a bunch of different scripts that people can get started easily. Let's start with a really simple example. You can prompt any OpenAI model using the prompt function by importing it from the daft.functions submodule. We're going to load our environment variables from our .env file. We'll create a data frame from a dictionary where a text column has a single row. We can pass in the entire column to the prompt function and then specify a system prompt, the model, as well as the provider. Since OpenAI is the provider set by default, we can just remove this and this will still run as if OpenAI was specified. Naturally, the OpenAI client, which looks for the OpenAI API key and OpenAI base URL environment variables, instantiates all of that in the background. At the bottom of our script, we can collect, we can write it to a file, or we can just show a few rows. We'll run this script with the command uv-run, which leverages this header to package dependencies independently. You can find more about that in the description. We'll go ahead and run this, and in the background, Daft is sending a request to the OpenAI API. It'll leverage your OpenAI API key to send requests in parallel. As quickly as the model is able to generate, those requests will be sent back and we'll get a response. At the same time, we'll get live metrics, and soon enough, we'll have our response. Let's look at something a little bit more interesting, like multimodal inputs. I've got a script here that's able to pass in both a PNG image and a PDF. It's just a single row, but just to demonstrate the usage pattern here, we'll demonstrate that not only do we already have built-in functions for handling images and for working with files, but we can also just pass in our prompt, our image, and our file as a single list into our messages input. We can provide our system message, like we did in the last example, and we can provide a more powerful model, like GPT's latest 5.1, which when we pass this in, Daft automatically builds the user content message parts for us. So when we go and run our script here, what Daft is actually doing in the background is that it's taking all of our PDFs and our files, our images, and it's passing into a single request that is now fed back to us as a response from GPT 5.1. As you can tell, we can see that the model does actually see the data, which is a really flexible way of providing multimodal inputs in a data frame context. Naturally, this would work if you're working with thousands of documents in S3, or if you keep your images in a Parquet file, you can simply read that in as an entire column. One of the most powerful features of the new prompt function is its support for structured outputs. This is useful for use cases like synthetic data or knowledge extraction, and fundamentally relies on the same principles as tool calls, coercing a model to produce a specific schema when it returns its response. In this script, we're also going to override our OpenAI provider to set the API key and base URL to point to OpenRouter. That way we can take advantage of multiple providers in addition to open source models. We're going to define a anime Pydantic model here, which is intended to classify a particular quote by its show, the character name that says the quote as well as an explanation from the model. Quotes like, "I'm going to be king of the pirates," and "I'm going to be the next Hokage" will fall into a quote column, which we can then pass into prompt. The system message here is passed in along with the return format as a plain Pydantic model, and Daft will natively convert that into a Daft type for us. Finally, we're going to specify Gemini 3 Pro, which is a new model that dropped today from Google and is currently sets the standard for model intelligence. We're finally going to unnest the structured response, and if we run it right here, we'll take a look at what that schema ends up looking like. As always, we've got our input and output tokens, and here we go. So now we've got a quote. We know what the show is that belongs to that quote, the character that says the quote, as well as an explanation as to what that quote means to that character and why it's important in the show. Finally, I want to turn your attention to the full suite of examples that we have on the Daft examples repository, where we've got usage for not just structured outputs and multimodal inputs, but things like tools, like OpenAI's built-in web search tool, or using chat completions. That's all we got time for today, but hopefully this is enough to get you started. Make sure you can go check out the links in the description and like and subscribe so you can always stay up to date with all of Daft's new AI functions and usage patterns. Thanks.